Story 1. The same car passed us 7 times, but we never turned. This happened to me and my cousin Nate in 2019 during a long-haul drive from Portland to a small town in Wyoming. We were helping Nate's sister move, driving her old pickup loaded with boxes, furniture, and 2 dogs in the back seat. It was late September, and we left after sunset to avoid traffic. By 11 p.m., we were well into central Idaho, surrounded by nothing but pine trees and empty 2-lane stretches. At first, everything felt normal. We passed small towns, stopped for coffee at a 24-hour diner, and got back on the road with music low and windows cracked. The stretch between 2 towns, Spencer and Dubois, is quiet, almost too quiet. After a while, the road stopped giving us any variety. It was the same pine thickets on both sides, the same gentle curve right, then back left. I noticed the same billboard, a faded advertisement for a ski lodge with a broken arrow and a missing phone number. We passed it again. I thought maybe I was tired. Nate asked, "Didn't we just see that?" I didn't answer right away. We kept driving. 10 minutes later, it came again. Same billboard, same curve. I pulled the GPS up on my phone. The blue dot was moving, but slowly. Too slowly. I asked Nate to check the odometer. "Same as 20 minutes ago," he said. 40 miles to the next gas stop. Still. We weren't moving, not really. But the tires were spinning. The engine was humming. I checked the fuel gauge. It hadn't dropped. We'd been on the road for over an hour since the last stop, but the tank was still 3/4 full. Not impossible, but odd. And then it got quieter. Not silent, just numb. The road hum didn't change, but it felt less real, less sharp, like being underwater. The dogs started to whine, not bark, just that slow, confused whimper dogs make when they don't understand what's wrong. Nate rolled down his window and immediately shouted, "Pull over!" I did. We sat there on the shoulder in the dark. The stars looked wrong, not the usual spread of constellations, but a cluttered scatter of unfamiliar patterns. I looked at the dashboard clock, 12:44 a.m. I checked my phone, 1:52 a.m. Nate stared at his watch, then mine. Did we just lose an hour? We hadn't turned. We hadn't stopped. There was no exit, no stop sign, no side road, just a flat, endless repeat. We didn't even remember the last song on the radio. I turned the key. The truck rumbled, headlights catching the trees. We kept driving, slowly, watching. I turned the heat off so I could hear better. For the next few miles, I counted every time the tires hit a crack in the pavement. It was rhythmic, too perfect. That's when we saw it, a black car, maybe a Corolla. It passed us going the opposite way. Nothing weird, except 10 minutes later, we saw it again. Same dented bumper, same taped rear window. This time it was in our lane, passing us from behind. And then again, 10 minutes later. This time it passed from the left, even though we never left our lane. Nate sat up straight. "That's 3 times. I nodded. Didn't say anything. We passed the ski lodge billboard again. We were supposed to be near Dubois. The map said 20 minutes out, but we hadn't passed a single light or driveway in over an hour. The dogs were whining constantly now, both of them staring out the rear window. Nate finally said it. "Something is looping us, and it's not the road." We pulled over again. This time I walked around the truck. No flats, no leaks. Odometer was still the same, fuel untouched. Our food wrappers hadn't even shifted, like we hadn't moved. I looked back at the road. No sound. Until the echo of tires. Distant, rubber on pavement, but no lights. Just the sound. Then silence. We got back in and kept going, but we never turned, and that car passed us again, this time slowly. The driver had their head turned toward us. After the 6th time we passed the same broken billboard, we decided to try something different. There was a gravel pull-off to the right, looked like a ranger trail or something, completely unlit. I turned down it. The gravel cracked under the tires, louder than seemed normal. We drove maybe a mile in and found a fork, left or right. Both were narrow and winding. I chose left. We drove 15 minutes. The trees got thicker, denser. We didn't pass a single sign or landmark. Then, up ahead, pavement. I thought it was a back entrance to Dubois. But when we emerged, Nate gasped. It was the same highway. We pulled out right next to the same mile marker we'd passed an hour before, mile 214. "That's not possible," he said. I looked at the rear view. No gravel, no trail, just asphalt. Like the path we took was gone. I pulled over. Nate got out and dragged a branch across the road, a visible mark. He drew a long, shallow X across the shoulder and down to the white line. We drove again. 20 minutes later, we saw the mark, but it wasn't an X anymore. It was a spiral. The branch marks had shifted somehow. Same place, same curve, same silent trees. I stopped and opened the door. There was something scratched into the post beside the road. 4 parallel lines and 1 diagonal strike through them. A tally. Nate leaned out the window and stared at it. That wasn't there before. We passed it again 15 minutes later. Now there were 6 tallies. We didn't stop this time. "Someone's counting," Nate whispered. I looked at him. "Counting what?" "How many times we tried to leave." We tried again. Different gravel road. Took the other fork this time. The result was the same. It spat us out onto the highway. Same curve, same sign, same mile marker. That's when we realized something else. The fuel gauge was creeping up, not down. Impossible. I took a photo. 3-4 tank. 20 minutes later, 4-4. Full. The car passed us again. This time it slowed beside us. A black Corolla. Tinted windows, dented bumper, no driver. Nate was gripping the dash. "I think we're being studied." I nodded, couldn't disagree. We passed the billboard. This time it had changed. The ski lodge name was scratched out. Underneath, in what looked like faded paint, "Stay on the road." I started looking up anything I could. Weak signal, but enough to load some cached pages. There were threads about looped highways. A Reddit post from 2014 where a man in West Texas claimed to drive for 3 hours but never left his county. Another older forum about an Ontario trucker who saw the same overturned billboard 5 times. Each time, it looked a little more restored. There was even a local archive about a psychology paper written in the 80s, studying driver submission behaviors in repeated environments. A phrase caught my eye. "Repetition in high-stress conditions leads to surrender behavior." Nate muttered, "What if this is a test? A maze with no solution?" We didn't answer. By then, we were too tired, too worn. We hadn't eaten in hours, and we didn't know what day it was. Eventually, we pulled over, shut off the engine. Total silence. We waited. After what felt like 10 minutes, the black car came again. From behind, it slowed as it passed us. We both looked. There was no one in the driver's seat, no one in the car at all. It coasted past, completely silent, no headlights, no engine hum, just movement. Nate whispered, "Do you think it's always been empty?" We tried to sleep in shifts, but neither of us could. The dogs were quiet now, not asleep, just alert, watching. At some point, the black car passed again. This time, it didn't move. It just sat 30 feet ahead of us on the shoulder, idling, no sound, no driver. When the sun finally broke the trees, just a sliver of pink, we decided to drive. The road was different. New signs, new towns. The billboard was gone. We made it to Dubois by 6:10 a.m., gas tank half full. Odometer 382 miles, more than it should have been. Neither of us said a word. We've never talked about it since, but every now and then I check maps of Idaho highways. And every now and then I'll see a black car just far enough behind me, just slow enough not to pass, and I wonder if we ever really left. Story 2. We asked for directions, but the gas station didn't exist after we left. This happened to me and my girlfriend, Rachel, in 2021. We were on a cross-country drive from Los Angeles to Denver, splitting the trip into 2 easy days. We planned to stop in eastern Utah overnight. It was one of those carefully planned road trips. Playlists, snacks, podcasts queued, car serviced the week before. That morning, we left a small motel near St. George, Utah. We were supposed to merge back onto the I-70 by 9 a.m., but Rachel thought it might be fun to detour through the high desert and skip the usual traffic. She found a back route online, a single road cutting northeast through a valley marked as Route 191, scenic, straight, and empty. The first few miles were normal. Red earth, distant mesas, silence broken only by wind. No other cars, no signs. Around the 10th mile, things changed. I remember it beginning gradually. First, the sun dimmed. Not behind clouds, just less light. Like someone turned down the saturation on everything. The dashboard clock still read 10:42 a.m., but the light outside looked like early dusk. I took off my sunglasses, still dim. Rachel turned off the AC and said, "Are you cold?" I realized I was. My skin had that pinprick feeling, not goosebumps from fear, but from cold. I checked the dashboard. Outside, temp said 51 degrees. It had been 77 less than an hour ago. Neither of us said anything. We kept driving. That's when Rachel pointed ahead. The mountains, weren't those on our left before? I looked. The same jagged range, dark red rock and white peaks, now stretched on both sides. I slowed the car, looked again. Identical peaks. Mirror image. But we hadn't turned, just driven straight. I pulled out my phone to check the map. The little blue dot pulsed in place. No roads, no direction, no satellite signal. I checked the compass. It spun once, then froze. North pointed straight at Rachel's seat. South was behind her. We were apparently facing due west, but I hadn't turned since the gas station, which had been an hour ago now. She asked me what I saw. I didn't want to say it out loud. I didn't want to make it real. We drove 10 more minutes. The mountains didn't change. Same formations, same crumbled spires and bent ridges. I slowed down even more. There was no wind now, no insects, no birds. At one point I stopped the car and got out. It was dead silent. Not quiet, silent. Even our footsteps on the gravel didn't echo. That's when we noticed something new. At the base of the mountain on the right, there was a single white boulder, almost perfectly round. Rachel pointed and said, "That's the same one we passed 20 minutes ago." I was sure she was wrong, until we passed it again. 10 minutes later, same position, same cracks, same long vertical mark across its surface. We hadn't turned around, but something had. Rachel stopped looking out the window. She stared down at her knees. Quietly, "We're not supposed to be here," she said. "I think this road is warning us." It wasn't spoken like a theory. It was like her body knew it before her brain caught up. We kept driving. Slowly, I felt like something was watching us. Not following, watching. The way you look through glass at something you're trying to understand. A frog under a microscope. I wanted to say, "Let's turn back," but I didn't. Because there was no turnoff, no signs, no shoulder wide enough to make a U-turn, and the mountains were still there, both sides, unchanging. At some point, we couldn't take it anymore. Rachel finally said, "Let's just go back to the gas station." We both remembered it, a dusty chevron, faded sign, one pump working. We'd stopped there to get water and use the bathroom. A young guy behind the counter had told us to stay straight on 191 and don't miss the turn by the tower. I remember his exact words. "Don't miss the tower. If you pass it twice, you're already too late." At the time, we thought it was weird, maybe a joke. He didn't smile when he said it. I found a wide enough gravel patch to do a rough U-turn. Tires kicked up a cloud. We headed back the way we came. 10 minutes later, same landscape. 15 minutes, no change. 20, nothing. 30 minutes, no gas station. I slowed the car to a crawl. We had to be close. There was no other road. 40 minutes later, still nothing, only red earth, dry brush, low mesas in the distance, no chevron, no pump, not even ruins. Rachel opened the glove box and took out the receipt from earlier. She held it up. "Look," she said. I read it. It had the Chevron logo, itemized charges, her water, my iced tea, dated July 18th, 1974. Neither of us spoke. She read the timestamp aloud. 10:46 a.m. I looked at my watch. 10:46 a.m. right now. We were stuck in a feedback loop. I pulled over, got out, looked around the spot where the station had been. I was sure of the location, the slight dip in the land, the dust trail, the mesquite tree by the road. There was nothing, no pavement, no foundation, no path leading to where it once stood, just dry dirt, a circle of dead grass. Like something had once been there and was neatly removed. Rachel was crying quietly, still holding the receipt. I walked 20 feet into the scrub brush, looking for any trace, a dropped cup, a tire rut, anything. There was nothing. We stood in the heat, except it wasn't hot. The sun was dim again, sky pale and washed out, no clouds, no sound. Rachel said something under her breath. I asked her to repeat it. She whispered, "He said don't miss the tower," but I didn't see any tower. Neither did I. We drove again, back the way we'd come again. But I was going slower now, trying to spot anything out of place. Another hour passed. Same round white boulder, same mountain ridges, same silence. The road didn't feel like it was leading anywhere. It just existed for us. I remembered reading something once in an old article about Cold War testing sites in the Midwest, about how certain structures appeared during atmospheric experiments, buildings that weren't there before, gas stations, signs, towers, all temporary for observation. Some physicists believed they weren't man-made. They were reactive, appearing only when needed. Or when someone, or something, wanted to show us something. I didn't believe any of it, not until now. Rachel opened the window and tried to throw the receipt out. It fluttered into the wind. 5 minutes later, I opened the glove box looking for a charger. The receipt was there, folded, neat, different. This time there was a note scribbled in pen across the top. "Keep going. We're not finished showing you." Rachel refused to touch it. I didn't either. I shut the glove box. We kept driving. What else could we do? 30 more minutes, still nothing changed. The road stayed smooth. Blacktop never cracked, no potholes, no dividers, just lines guiding us forward. The mountain range began to fade. Not recede, fade. Like chalk washed from a blackboard. Then came the tower, just a black silhouette on the right side of the road, barely taller than a radio mast. Thin, featureless, no lights, no doors, just vertical. As we passed, Rachel turned fully in her seat, looking out the rear window. "It wasn't there before," she said. It wasn't. 10 minutes later, a second one, then a third. Each one slightly closer to the road, each one slightly taller, each one darker. We were being funneled, guided. At one point I stopped the car again. I couldn't breathe. Rachel said, "Do you smell that?" I didn't smell anything. She insisted, burning plastic, melted wire. I opened the hood. No smoke, no heat. Engine temp was fine. She looked sick, said her ears were ringing. Then she shouted, "It's in the receipt." We opened the glove box again. It was still there. This time, the handwriting had changed again. Slanted, thin, almost mechanical. "You're starting to see, most people don't." That's when I realized we hadn't eaten since the gas station, except we never ate. We never bought food. We were hungry, but not tired, not thirsty. I checked the water bottle in the cup holder. Full, still sealed. Condensation perfect, untouched. Rachel whispered, "What if we never left the station?" I didn't answer. The towers began to disappear after that, one by one, like we were being let go. Eventually the road began to curve, slowly. Then, finally, a bend. We hadn't turned in hours. The GPS reactivated. A soft ping, a blue dot, moving forward. We emerged onto a larger highway. Civilization, signs, speed limits, billboards, gas stations. I pulled over at the first one. Rachel stayed in the car. I walked inside, bought gum, a soda. The clerk looked bored, human. I asked him if there was a Route 191 nearby. He shook his head. Nope, that road got shut down back in the 70s. I asked why. He didn't know, just said it wasn't there anymore. When I got back in the car, Rachel had the receipt in her lap. Different ink again, same paper. You made it through, but not everyone does. To this day, I don't know if we ever truly left that station. Sometimes, when I open the glove box, it's still there. Same receipt, same message, in fresh handwriting. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. Story 3. We took a photo on the road, but there was a third person in the back seat. This happened to us last fall. Me, my best friend Kyle, and our mutual friend Alina were on a road trip from Chicago to Oregon. It was supposed to be one of those last free summer type of things. Kyle had just gotten engaged, and Alina was moving to Boston for grad school. We were in our late 20s and hadn't done anything spontaneous in years. We planned the route to be scenic, mountains, coastlines, national parks, the kind of stuff you never have time for once life gets serious. We packed light, took Kyle's Subaru Outback. I drove most of the way, Alina navigated, Kyle manned the playlists and snacks. On the third day of the trip, somewhere in southern Montana, we stopped on a high ridge overlooking a canyon. There was a turnout lot with a lone picnic table and a few informational signs about erosion and limestone cliffs. Nothing special, but the light was incredible. This sharp, late afternoon angle that made everything look golden. Alina wanted a photo, so I propped my phone on a rock, set the 10-second timer, and we all huddled in. Kyle sat in the middle. I was on his right, Alina on the left. We smiled. The shutter clicked. Afterward, we piled back in the car and drove another 2 hours before stopping for the night at a cheap roadside lodge. While waiting for takeout, we went through the trip photos. That's when Alina gasped. She held the phone up slowly, her finger shaking just slightly. "Look at this," she said. It was the canyon photo, but there was someone else in the frame. In the back seat of the car behind us, parked just at the edge of the lot, was a person. At first I thought it was a trick of the shadows or maybe a reflection, but we zoomed in. There, behind us, in the driver's side back window of Kyle's car, was a face, male, dark hair, expression unreadable, but not completely unfamiliar. Kyle stared at it for a long time, silent. Then, barely audible, he said, "That's my brother." Neither Alina nor I responded right away. Kyle's brother Mason had died 10 years ago. Car crash, rural road, no survivors. I remember going to the funeral. I remember how close they were. I also remember how Kyle hadn't spoken much about it since. He was staring at the photo, mouth slightly open, like he wasn't sure if he was seeing it correctly. He turned the screen toward me again. "Tell me that's not him." I couldn't. It looked exactly like the only photo I'd ever seen of Mason. One on Kyle's fridge from when they were kids. Same sharp cheekbones, same uneven jawline. "Maybe it's someone behind us," Alina offered. "There wasn't anyone," I said. "No one else pulled into that lot." Kyle shook his head. "I checked the car before we left. There was nobody in it. I'm sure of it." None of us said the obvious. Even if someone had snuck into the car, why would they just sit there, not move, not make a sound? I kept looking at the image. The figure in the window didn't look like a person caught mid-blink or some optical illusion. He was looking directly at the camera, like he knew we'd find him. The next morning, we left the lodge around 7 a.m. None of us slept well. Kyle hadn't said a word since we checked out. I saw him trying to delete the photo from his phone before we left. Later that afternoon, while waiting for gas, Alina opened her phone to check directions. She opened her photo gallery to pull up the next stop and gasped again. "It's still here," she said. I looked. It was the same image. The canyon, the three of us, and the figure in the back seat. "But that was on Kyle's phone," I said. She nodded. "I never saved it. He never sent it." We asked Kyle to check his again. Gone. He had definitely deleted it. I checked my phone out of curiosity. I hadn't saved any of the photos from the day before. I was driving the whole time, but there it was. Same photo, same timestamp, no metadata about how it got there. We tried deleting it again. Alina even emptied her trash folder, double-checked cloud settings, disabled all app permissions. The photo came back within an hour. We stopped taking pictures after that, but it didn't matter. The next day, while scrolling through my weather app, one of those that automatically shows your gallery as background, I noticed it had pulled a different photo. One we hadn't taken. It was of us in the car from behind, as if someone had taken it from the rear seat. You could see the backs of our heads, Alina's ponytail, Kyle's hoodie, my baseball cap, and behind us, barely in frame, that same figure, closer now, sitting behind Kyle. We hadn't taken that photo. It wasn't in my gallery. It wasn't even formatted like a phone photo, more like a still from a video. We all started checking our apps, notes, calendars, random cloud apps, files. There were new photos, dozens, all from different angles. All of us going about the trip. Sometimes the figure was in the back seat, sometimes in reflections. Once, in the passenger mirror, crouched by the car door. Each time, he was closer. One photo showed him sitting next to Kyle, but I remembered that stretch of the drive. It had only been the three of us. We tried disabling the phones, turning them off, removing SIMs. It didn't stop. The photos kept reappearing. We left our devices powered down overnight. The next morning, Kyle's phone powered back on by itself and had a new image on the lock screen. Us, sleeping, taken from inside the room. The figure was standing by the door. That day, Kyle stopped talking completely. We decided to cut the trip short, skip the coast, just drive straight to Oregon, get on a flight back. No more photos, no more stops. Somewhere in Idaho, we took a wrong turn and ended up on a detour. One of those rural diversions with hand-painted signs nailed to fence posts. At some point, we lost cell signal again. The road narrowed and wound through a canyon, deeper and darker than anything we'd driven before. That's when we saw the stranger. He was standing by a stone marker, maybe a mile from the nearest crossroad, middle-aged, long grey coat, holding a camera. He flagged us down. I was about to keep driving, but Kyle spoke for the first time in 2 days. "Stop the car." I did. The man smiled politely. "Tourist map says this is a good view," he said. "Mind if I get a photo of you three?" I opened my mouth to say no, but Kyle was already getting out. He nodded to the man. Alina followed. I hesitated, but I didn't want to be alone in the car. The man took one photo, just one, with an old Polaroid, then thanked us and walked back toward the stone marker. We didn't ask for a copy, we didn't give him a reason. We just got in the car and drove. 2 hours later, we made it to the next town. That's when we realized Kyle was gone. We had stopped for gas. Alina was in the store. I was at the pump. Kyle had been in the back seat when we pulled in. Now he wasn't. We searched the lot, the bathrooms, the road behind us. Nothing. We called his name, asked the clerk. No one had seen him. Alina pulled out her phone again, opened the gallery, maybe without thinking. There was a new photo, the one from the stranger's camera, but not a scan, a clean digital file, somehow on her phone. In the photo, there were 3 people, Alina, me, and a third man. It wasn't Kyle. He had the same posture, same hoodie, same shoes, but the face was different. Older, pale, smiling, not wide, not joyful, just accepting. Alina screamed. I sat down right there on the curb. We tried calling Kyle's number. It rang once, then a voice answered. Not his voice, but it was calm and familiar. "Don't come back," it said. Then the line died. That was last year. We filed a missing person report. His family still posts about it, but they stopped calling us. I think they know. Somehow. I still get new photos, once a week, give or take. Always the same man. Always closer. sometimes smiling, sometimes looking right at me. I don't open my gallery anymore, but sometimes late at night, my lock screen changes on its own to a photo I never took, and I swear, he's starting to look like me.